This story starts with a choice many will judge, but few will truly understand. 2 weeks before her wedding, 26-year-old Alana Brooks walked away from the man who loved her for a life of luxury she thought would change everything. A message on Instagram promised wealth, travel, and a world far from the stress she'd been fighting for years. Most people called it betrayal. Alana called it opportunity. But 48 hours after she landed in Dubai, she opened a door she was never meant to touch, one that exposed the truth behind the man who invited her there. And in that moment, the dream she chased turned into the kind of nightmare no one escapes from. This is the case of Alana Brooks, the woman who followed a promise and walked straight into danger. Welcome to True Crime Story HQ. Thanks to all my viewers and subscribers for your support. Stay tuned for daily true crime updates. Don't forget to subscribe. To understand what happened in Dubai, you first have to understand who Alana Brooks was. Not the caricature painted by tabloids or the judgments hurled by strangers online, but the real woman. The one shaped by loss, ambition, and a longing that started long before she ever heard the name Khalid Al-Rami. Alana Marie Brooks was born on February 3, 1997, in Atlanta, Georgia, during a snowstorm that shut down half the city. Her mother, Denise, was a nurse who worked double shifts at Grady Memorial Hospital. Her father, Leonard, was a construction manager who spent more time on job sites than he did at home. Alana was the eldest of 3 children, which meant responsibility came early. She helped raise her younger siblings, Kira and Jamal, while her parents worked to keep the family afloat. They lived in a modest 3-bedroom house in a neighborhood that straddled the line between middle-class stability and financial uncertainty. It was the kind of place where people worked hard, dreamed bigger, and hoped their kids would do better. But when Alana was 11 years old, everything shifted. Her father left. Not because of infidelity in the traditional sense, but because he had met someone else, a woman with money, a woman who could offer him the life he felt he deserved. Leonard didn't just leave Denise. He left his children behind too, trading them for a new family, a bigger house, and a future that didn't include them. Alana watched her mother cry herself to sleep for months. She watched the bills pile up. She watched her younger siblings ask questions she couldn't answer, and somewhere in that wreckage, a belief took root deep inside her. Love wasn't enough. You needed more. You needed security. You needed to be chosen in a way that couldn't be undone by something, or someone, better. Alana carried that wound into her teenage years. Childhood friends remember her as ambitious but insecure, always comparing herself to classmates who had more. She wasn't envious in a cruel way. It was quieter than that. She simply believed that worth was measured by what you had, not who you were. She curated her life carefully, even then, posting only the best photos, wearing clothes she couldn't afford, laughing loudest at parties where she felt invisible. In 2015, she graduated from high school and enrolled at Georgia State University, majoring in marketing. It seemed like the perfect fit for someone who understood image, presentation, and the art of making people believe in something. She graduated in May 2019 with decent grades and high hopes, convinced that her degree would open doors. But the doors didn't open, at least not the way she imagined. She worked retail at a boutique in Buckhead, then customer service for a tech startup that folded after 8 months. She picked up freelance social media management gigs, building Instagram accounts for small businesses while quietly building her own. By 2022, she had 8,400 followers. Not viral, but respectable. Her feed was a careful illusion: brunch at trendy restaurants, sunset photos on rooftops, designer bags borrowed from friends. She wanted people to see her as successful, even when she was barely scraping by. She had a deep desire to make it, to prove she was more than her circumstances, more than the girl whose father left, more than someone who had to hustle for every small victory. Her former roommate, Jasmine Carter, remembers those years vividly. Alana wasn't shallow, Jasmine says during an interview, her voice tinged with sadness. People think she was, but she wasn't. She equated wealth with being safe, with being loved in a way that couldn't be taken away. She wanted the life she saw online. Yeah, but not because she was materialistic. She wanted it because she thought it meant she'd finally be enough. Jasmine pauses, looking down at her hands. I tried to tell her she was already enough, but I don't think she ever believed me. Friends also noticed patterns in the men Alana dated. There was the real estate agent who drove a leased BMW, the club promoter who promised connections, the personal trainer who talked about opening his own gym someday. None of them lasted long. Alana was warm and loyal, capable of deep affection and genuine connection. But she measured relationships by what they could provide. Not just money, but stability, status, proof that she had made it. When men failed to deliver on the life she imagined, she moved on. It wasn't cruelty. It wasn't cold calculation. It was survival instinct. Forged in the moment her father chose someone else and taught her that love alone would never be enough to make someone stay. By the time she met Marcus Thornton in 2020, Alana was exhausted. She was tired of pretending, tired of chasing, tired of feeling like she was always one step behind the life she wanted. And for a while, Marcus made her forget all of that. For a while, he made her believe that maybe, just maybe, love could be enough after all. But deep down, the wound remained. The abandonment. The belief that she needed more to be worthy of being chosen. And when Khalid al-Rami entered her life 3 years later, offering everything, her father's abandonment had taught her to crave. That wound split wide open. It consumed her judgment, her caution, and ultimately, her future. Marcus Thornton was never supposed to be the man Alana walked away from. He was supposed to be the one she chose, the one who stayed. Marcus was born on August 12, 1995, in Savannah, Georgia, into a family that believed in hard work, faith, and showing up for the people you loved. His father was a mechanic who owned a small auto shop. His mother taught elementary school. They weren't wealthy, but they were stable, the kind of stability that doesn't make headlines but builds lives. Marcus grew up watching his parents navigate challenges without drama, without betrayal, without walking away. He learned early that love was a verb, not a feeling. It was something you did every day, especially on the days it was hard. After high school, Marcus went to technical school and became a licensed electrician. By 23, he had started his own small contracting business, taking on residential jobs and slowly building a reputation for quality work and fair prices. He wasn't flashy. He didn't drive expensive cars or wear designer clothes. But he was reliable. He showed up. He kept his word. And to the people who knew him, that mattered more than anything else. Marcus was steady in a world that often felt chaotic. He was emotionally intelligent in ways that many men his age weren't. Capable of listening, of holding space for difficult conversations, of being present without needing to fix everything immediately. Marcus met Alana in July 2020 at a backyard cookout hosted by mutual friends. It was one of those warm summer evenings where the air smelled like grilled meat and laughter echoed across the yard. He noticed her immediately, not just because she was beautiful, but because of the way she listened when people talked, the way she laughed with her whole body, the way she seemed both confident and fragile at the same time. There was something magnetic about her, something that drew him in before they'd even exchanged a word. They spent the entire evening talking, sitting on the back porch while music played inside and fireflies blinked in the darkness. When the night ended, Marcus asked for her number. She hesitated for just a second, long enough for him to notice, but then she smiled and said yes. Their first official date was at a small coffee shop in Midtown Atlanta, followed by a walk through Piedmont Park. Marcus was nervous, stumbling over his words, but Alana found it endearing. He didn't try to impress her with money or status. He just asked questions and actually listened to the answers. He wanted to know about her family, her dreams, the things that made her happy, and the things that kept her awake at night. It was disarming. For the first time in a long time, Alana felt seen, not for what she had or what she could be, but for who she was in that moment. Marcus saw Alana as the one, almost, immediately. He felt it in his bones, that rare certainty that doesn't come from logic but from something deeper. Alana was drawn to his consistency, his kindness, his unwavering presence. He was the opposite of every man she'd dated before. No games, no false promises, no performance. Just Marcus, showing up day after day, loving her in the quiet, unglamorous ways that actually mattered. But even in those early months, a small voice in the back of her mind whispered doubts. She wondered if steady was just another word for boring. She wondered if security meant settling. She pushed those thoughts away, but they never fully disappeared. They started dating officially in August 2020, and the years that followed were, by most measures, good. Marcus supported Alana through job loss in 2021, never once making her feel like a burden. When she couldn't make rent, he covered it without hesitation. "We're a team," he told her. "That's what teams do." When her mother faced unexpected medical bills later that year, Marcus quietly paid half without being asked. He didn't keep score. He didn't hold it over her head. He just loved her. He was there during her depressive episodes, sitting with her in silence when words felt impossible, holding her when she cried about feeling stuck, about feeling like she was failing at life. He was there through family drama, through fights with her siblings, through the exhausting weight of feeling like nothing was ever enough. In June 2023, Marcus took Alana on a weekend trip to Tybee Island. They stayed in a modest beachfront rental, spent the days walking along the shore collecting shells, and ate seafood at a local dive bar where the tables were sticky and the service was slow, but the food was perfect. On their last evening, as the sun melted into the Atlantic and turned the sky into liquid gold, Marcus got down on one knee in the sand and asked Alana to marry him. The ring wasn't huge, but it was thoughtful. A simple band with a small diamond he'd saved for months to afford. Alana cried and said yes without hesitation. In that moment, she meant it. In that moment, she believed that love could be enough. They began planning a wedding for November 4th, 2023. It would be small, 75 guests, mostly family and close friends. They couldn't afford the venue Alana had dreamed about as a little girl, the kind she'd seen in bridal magazines with chandeliers and marble floors. Instead, they settled on a community hall that they'd decorate with string lights and borrowed centerpieces. The budget was tight. Every decision involved compromise. Marcus didn't care about the details, the flowers, the music, the menu. He just wanted to marry her. He wanted to stand in front of everyone they loved and promise to build a life together, one steady day at a time. But as the months passed and the wedding drew closer, cracks began to form. Alana started expressing frustration about money, not in loud arguments, but in quiet comments that landed heavy. "I'm tired of budgeting every single thing," she said one night while they looked at wedding expenses spread across the kitchen table. "I just want to breathe." Marcus understood. He was tired too, but he didn't know how to fix it. He was building his business, working long hours, doing everything he could to create a future for them. But it was slow. It was steady. Progress measured in small increments rather than dramatic leaps. And for Alana, steady started to feel like stagnation. One night in early 2023, after another conversation about cutting costs, Alana looked at Marcus across the table and said something that would haunt him later. "I love you, but I'm tired of struggling." Marcus felt the words like a punch. He wanted to tell her that struggle was temporary, that they were building something real, something that would last. But he stayed quiet. He didn't know that real wasn't enough for her anymore. He didn't know that she'd already started measuring their life against a fantasy she was constructing in her mind. She began spending more time on her phone, scrolling through Instagram, looking at the lives other people projected. Lives filled with luxury vacations, designer clothes, effortless abundance. She started withdrawing emotionally, not dramatically, but enough for Marcus to notice. He'd ask if she was okay, and she'd say yes, but her eyes told a different story. Her mind was somewhere else. She was pulling away, inch by inch, and Marcus could feel it, but didn't know how to stop it. He trusted that they'd get through it, the way they'd gotten through everything else. He believed in them. He believed in her. Looking back now, Marcus can pinpoint the moment he should have known something was wrong. It was mid-September, about 6 weeks before the wedding. He came home early from a job and found Alana on the couch, staring at her phone with an expression he'd never seen before, excitement mixed with something he couldn't name. Her eyes were bright. Her smile was different. When he asked what she was looking at, she quickly locked the screen and said, "Nothing. Just Instagram." He believed her. He always believed her. He didn't think to question it because questioning would have meant doubting, and Marcus didn't know how to doubt the woman he loved. In present-day interview footage, Marcus sits in his living room, the same couch where they used to watch movies together on Friday nights. His voice is quiet but steady, measured in the way of someone who's had months to process grief, but still hasn't fully made peace with it. "I thought love was enough," he says, looking directly at the camera with eyes that carry an unbearable sadness. "I thought we were enough. I thought if I just kept showing up, kept being consistent, kept loving her the way I knew how, that would be enough to make her stay." He pauses, his jaw tightening. "But I guess for her, we weren't enough. And I didn't see it coming until it was too late." He takes a breath, choosing his words carefully. "The worst part isn't that she left. People leave. Hearts change. I could have survived that eventually. The worst part is that she left me for someone who killed her 2 days later. 2 days. She walked away from everything we had, from everyone who loved her, for a man who murdered her before she even had a chance to realize her mistake." His voice cracks slightly, but he doesn't look away. "And I'll spend the rest of my life wondering if I could have stopped it, if I'd fought harder, if I'd been different, if I'd been more." Marcus Thornton loved Alana Brooks with everything he had, and it still wasn't enough to save her. Every tragedy has a catalyst, a moment when fate shifts and the path forward becomes irreversible. For Alana Brooks, that moment came in the form of a direct message on Instagram in early September 2023. The account had no profile picture, just a name, K. Al-Rami. The message was brief, professional, and intriguing. "I came across your profile and was impressed by your aesthetic. I represent a luxury brand partnership opportunity in Dubai. Would you be interested in discussing further?" At first, Alana thought it was spam. She received messages like this occasionally. Brands offering exposure in exchange for free promotion. Influencers trying to network. Scammers promising opportunities that never materialized. But something about this one felt different. The account, though sparse, had 140,000 followers. The bio read simply, "Private." She clicked through to see who followed the account. Verified celebrities, international business figures, fashion designers, people whose names she recognized from magazines and news headlines. This wasn't a bot. This was real. She responded cautiously. "Thank you for reaching out. Can you tell me more about the opportunity?" Within minutes, a reply appeared. "I'll have my client reach out directly. He prefers personal communication for potential collaborations." 3 days later, her phone rang. The caller ID showed an international number with a UAE country code. When she answered, a man's voice greeted her, smooth, confident, with a British-tinged accent that comes from expensive international schools and a childhood spent moving between continents. "Hello, Alana. My name is Khalid Al-Rami. I hope I'm not interrupting your day." Khalid Ibrahim. Al-Rami was 45 years old at the time, though he looked younger in the rare photographs that existed of him online. Born on March 22, 1978, in Abu Dhabi, he was the youngest son of Ibrahim Al-Rami, a petroleum magnate who had built an empire in oil extraction and luxury real estate across the Middle East. The Al-Rami family name carried weight in circles where wealth wasn't just measured in millions, but in the ability to move markets, influence governments, and shape entire industries. When Ibrahim died in 2015, Khalid inherited an estimated $2.3 billion, along with properties in Dubai, London, Paris, and Monaco. He had never married. He had no known long-term relationships. Public records showed business transactions, real estate purchases, and charitable donations to museums and cultural institutions, but almost nothing about his personal life. Khalid was a ghost in the modern age, present but invisible, powerful but untraceable. He owned entire floors of buildings, but was rarely photographed. He attended elite gatherings, but always left before the cameras arrived. Those who moved in his circles described him as eccentric and intensely private, the kind of man who could charm a room without ever revealing a single personal detail. Associates used words like brilliant, strategic, and untouchable. He was known for lavish spending, million-dollar art pieces acquired at private auctions, cars that most people would never see outside of a showroom, philanthropic gestures that made headlines but never included his face. Yet beneath the generosity and the wealth, there was something else, something harder to name. Business partners described him as charming but cold, capable of warmth in the moment but fundamentally detached, as though he were always observing rather than participating. Staff members who worked in his properties signed ironclad non-disclosure agreements, contracts so airtight that even years after leaving his employment, they refused to speak about what they'd witnessed. And there were whispers, vague, unverified stories about unconventional spiritual practices, about rooms in his homes that were off-limits even to trusted employees, about women who visited and left abruptly without explanation. But whispers don't hold up in court. Rumors don't damage reputations when you have enough money to bury them. Alana didn't know any of this when Khalid called. She only heard his voice, warm, interested, disarming. He explained that he wasn't offering a typical brand partnership. He was launching a private luxury lifestyle initiative and wanted to collaborate with someone who understood image and authenticity. "I've watched how you present yourself online," he said, his tone almost reverent. "You don't just post pictures, you tell a story. That's rare." Alana felt herself blushing even though he couldn't see her. No one had ever described her Instagram that way. Most people dismissed it as superficial, as vanity disguised as ambition. But Khalid saw it as art. He saw her as an artist. They talked for an hour that first call. He asked about her background, her interests, her goals. He wanted to know what drove her, what she dreamed about when she allowed herself to dream without limits. He didn't talk about himself much, deflecting questions with vague answers about business and travel. But he made her feel important. He made her feel seen in a way that even Marcus, with all his love and consistency, hadn't quite managed. When the call ended, Khalid said, "I'd like to continue this conversation. I'll be in touch soon." And he was. Over the next 2 weeks, they spoke nearly every day. The conversation shifted gradually from professional to personal. Khalid asked about her childhood, her family, the moments that shaped her. He listened, really listened, in a way that made Alana feel like she was the only person in the world who mattered. And then the gifts started arriving. A Gucci handbag delivered to her apartment with a note that read, "Because you deserve beautiful things." A bouquet of white orchids with a card that said, "Rare beauty for a rare soul." Jewelry from Cartier, a delicate bracelet that probably cost more than her rent. Perfume from Paris that came in a box so elegant she didn't want to open it. Each gift arrived with perfect timing, as though Khalid somehow knew exactly when Alana needed to feel special, needed to feel chosen. He began FaceTiming her, showing her glimpses of his world. The penthouse in Burj Khalifa with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a city that glittered like a jewel. The garage filled with Lamborghinis and Ferraris, cars she'd only ever seen in music videos. The yacht docked in the marina, sleek and massive, a floating palace. But he never showed her his face for long. The camera angles were always strategic, always controlled. He'd pan across a room, show her a view, but keep himself just slightly out of frame, as though he were directing a film rather than having a conversation. And he never spoke about family, relationships, or his past in any meaningful depth. When Alana asked about his personal life, he'd smile. She could hear it in his voice even when she couldn't see it, and say, "I prefer to live in the present. The past is boring. I'm much more interested in the future. Our future." The messages became personal, then romantic. "I can't stop thinking about you," he wrote one night. "There's something about you that feels different from anyone I've ever met." Alana read those words over and over, her heart racing. She told herself to be careful, to be smart, to remember that she was engaged to a good man who loved her. But Khalid's attention was intoxicating. It filled a void she didn't even know she had. He made her feel like she was special, like she was worth the kind of life she'd only ever dreamed about. Then, on October 1st, 2023, Khalid made an offer that would change everything. "I want you to come to Dubai," he said during one of their calls, his voice soft but deliberate. "Just for a week. See what life could be like here. No obligations, no pressure. I'll take care of everything. Flights, accommodation, anything you need. Just come. Experience this world. And if you feel what I feel..." He paused, letting the words hang in the air. "You could stay?" Alana's heart raced. She asked what he meant by stay. Khalid's voice softened even further, becoming almost intimate. "I mean that I think you're extraordinary, Alana. I've met a lot of people in my life, and none of them have captivated me the way you have. I'd like to explore what we could be together, but I want you to see my world first. I want you to make sure it's what you want. I would never ask you to choose blindly." He paused again. "Come see what life could be like. Just for a week. First-class ticket. 5-star accommodation. No strings attached." But there was a suggestion woven into his words, a promise wrapped in possibility. "If you feel what I feel, you could stay." Alana sat in silence, staring at her phone, her mind spinning. The invitation was surreal. It was the kind of opportunity people only read about in novels or saw in movies. The wealthy stranger, the exotic destination, the life-changing choice. But it was also terrifying because it meant making a decision. A choice that would unravel the life she'd been building with Marcus. A choice that would confirm every judgment people had about her. A choice that could either fulfill her dreams or destroy them. She told herself she'd just visit. Just see. Just explore. She told herself it didn't mean anything. That she was just being smart. Keeping her options open. Making sure she wasn't settling for less than she deserved. But deep down, she already knew what she was going to do. Deep down, she'd already made her choice. Khalid al-Rami had offered her everything she'd ever wanted, everything her father's abandonment had taught her to crave, and she was going to take it. She had no idea that the man on the other end of the phone wasn't offering her a dream. He was offering her a trap, and once she stepped inside, there would be no way out. Thank you for following Alana's story. Consider joining our YouTube membership today to support investigative storytelling that refuses to let victims be forgotten. Unlock exclusive deep dives, early access to cases, and behind-the-scenes research that goes into bringing these untold stories to light. Together, we can make sure that stories like Alana's don't just disappear, because the truth matters. Justice matters, and their stories deserve to be heard. October 10th, 2023. 2 weeks before the wedding. Alana asked Marcus to sit down, and the moment those words left her lips, something in the room shifted. They were surrounded by half-packed boxes, wedding invitations already in the mail, 75 guests preparing to celebrate their love. Marcus thought she wanted to discuss seating arrangements. He had no idea she was about to destroy everything. "I need to be honest with you," Alana began, her voice trembling. Marcus looked confused, almost amused. Honest about what? He thought maybe she had cold feet, normal pre-wedding jitters they'd laugh about someday. But Alana couldn't meet his eyes. She stared at her hands, twisting the engagement ring he'd saved months to afford. "I've been talking to someone." The words hit like a physical blow. Marcus blinked, his smile fading. "Talking to someone? What do you mean?" Alana's voice dropped to barely a whisper. "His name is Khalid. He lives in Dubai. He's offered me an opportunity. A life I never thought I could have." Silence. Heavy, suffocating silence. Then Marcus stood up, pacing, running his hands through his hair. "What kind of opportunity?" "Alana, we're getting married in 2 weeks. Our families are flying in. We've paid for everything. What are you talking about?" His voice was rising now, desperation creeping in. He wants me to come to Dubai, Alana said, tears starting to fall. To be with him, to start over. Marcus stopped cold. Start over? Are you serious? You're leaving me for money? 2 weeks before our wedding, you're leaving me for some stranger because he's rich? The hurt in his voice was devastating. It's not about the money, Alana insisted, though even she wasn't sure she believed it anymore. It's about not struggling. It's about security. It's about having a chance at something more. More than what? Marcus's voice cracked completely now. More than us? I've been here, Alana. Through your job loss, your mother's medical bills, your depression, I was here. I showed up every single day, and that's not enough? Alana wiped her tears, forcing herself to continue. You're a good man, Marcus. But good isn't enough anymore. I need more than good. I can't marry you wondering what I gave up. I can't spend my life wondering if I settled. That word, settled, hung in the air like poison. Marcus collapsed back onto the couch, staring at her like she was a stranger. So that's it? You're just walking away? He looked broken. Completely broken. Alana grabbed her jacket, moving toward the door before she lost her nerve. I'm sorry. I have to do this. She paused at the door, her hand on the knob, but she didn't turn back. The door closed with a quiet click that echoed like thunder. Within hours, her world imploded. Her mother called, screaming, "How could you do this to that man? When this falls apart, and it will, don't come crying to me." The line went dead. Her sister Kira begged her to reconsider. I'm scared for you, Alana. Really scared. Friends sent messages ranging from concern to outright condemnation. Most cut her off entirely. The group chats went silent. Alana blocked numbers, retreated into isolation, alone with her choice. Marcus had the unbearable task of canceling everything, calling vendors, explaining that his bride had left him for a billionaire, losing thousands in deposits, facing family and friends who'd celebrated their engagement and now witnessed its destruction. The humiliation was crushing. On October 13, 2023, Alana boarded Emirates Flight 221 to Dubai. Before boarding, she posted one final Instagram photo. Sunglasses on, small smile, caption reading, "New chapter." The comments exploded. You'll regret this. Golddigger. Karma is coming. Alana turned off her phone, refusing to second-guess herself. Marcus didn't call, didn't text. He sat alone in their apartment, staring at wedding invitations, wondering how he'd missed the signs that she was already gone. As the plane lifted off, Alana looked down at Atlanta disappearing below. Doubt flickered through her mind. Marcus alone, her mother's disappointment, Kira's warning, but she pushed it away. She was choosing herself, choosing the life she deserved. She had no idea that in 48 hours she'd realize the terrible truth. That Khalid's promises were lies. That the man who made her feel chosen would ensure she never came home. And by then, it would be too late to undo anything. Too late to go back. Too late to survive. October 14th, 2023, 8:42 a.m., Dubai International Airport. After 15 hours in the air, Alana stepped into a world that felt like a fever dream. Her phone buzzed. "Welcome to Dubai. My driver is waiting." Everything around her gleamed. Marble floors like mirrors, luxury boutiques, brilliant white lights that made reality feel distant. Outside, the heat hit her like a physical force. But there, beside a black Mercedes S-Class, stood a driver holding a sign with her name. The car interior smelled of leather and expensive cologne, cool and insulated from the chaos outside. As they drove, Alana pressed her face to the window, watching a city that looked like it had been built by someone who refused to accept limits. Impossible skyscrapers, Ferraris and Lamborghinis weaving through traffic, no litter, no poverty, no visible imperfection. It felt surreal, a city that had erased anything real. 20 minutes later, they arrived at Burj Khalifa, the tallest building in the world. Alana had seen pictures, but seeing it in person was different. A needle piercing the sky, owning everything around it. A private elevator shot up to the 120th floor so fast her ears popped and her stomach dropped. The penthouse doors opened to something beyond comprehension. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed Dubai sprawling below, the Persian Gulf shimmering like liquid silver, desert stretching endlessly beyond. The apartment was pristine, white marble, minimalist furniture, abstract art worth more than most homes. But there were no personal touches, no photographs, nothing that suggested anyone actually lived there. It felt like a showroom, a display of wealth, not a home. And there was Khalid, dressed in crisp white, smiling like he'd been waiting his entire life for this moment. "Alana," he said warmly, taking her hand. "Welcome." His touch was warm, his eyes kind, but something about the way he looked at her felt measured, calculating. "Everything here is yours," he said, "for as long as you want." The tour was impressive. 3 bedrooms with luxury bathrooms, a private gym, a library of untouched books, a chef's kitchen. Her clothes had already been unpacked and hung in the closet, as if she'd been living there for years. Khalid watched her reactions carefully, cataloging every expression. That evening, dinner on the terrace. The sunset painted the sky in impossible colors. A private chef served grilled lamb, saffron rice, delicate pastries. The food was perfect, but Alana barely tasted it. She was too aware of Khalid watching her with that same unsettling intensity. He asked about her past, her family, her dreams. "Tell me about your childhood. What shaped you?" Alana found herself sharing things she rarely discussed. Her parents' divorce, her father leaving, the wound that had never healed. Khalid listened without interrupting, his expression unreadable. But when she asked about him, his family, his past, why he'd never married, he deflected smoothly. "My family is complicated. I prefer not to dwell on the past. It's boring, really." When she pressed about relationships, he smiled without answering. "I've met many people, but no one like you." And then, more firmly, "Some things are better discovered than explained." Alana laughed nervously. "You're very mysterious." Khalid's expression didn't change. "I value privacy. I keep certain parts of myself sacred." After dinner, standing by the window overlooking the city, Khalid took her hand. The gesture felt rehearsed. "There's something you should know about me," he said quietly. Alana's heart quickened. "What is it?" He looked out at the city, his jaw tightening. "I live a very private life. There are parts of me I keep sacred, parts I don't share with the outside world." He paused. "If you ever discover them, I need you to promise something. Do not panic. Do not judge. Understand that what you see is part of who I am, and it's not meant to be shared." Alana tried to laugh it off. "Are you secretly married or something?" But Khalid didn't laugh. He turned to her, his eyes locking onto hers with frightening intensity. "Just remember what I said. Do not panic. Do not judge. And whatever you do not share what you learn with anyone. Ever." The moment stretched uncomfortably. A chill ran down Alana's spine despite the warm air. She wanted to demand an explanation, but something in his expression stopped her. "Okay," she whispered. "I'll remember." Khalid's warmth returned instantly, as if the conversation had never happened. "Good. Now let's rest. Tomorrow I'll show you the city." But that night, lying in bed staring at the unfamiliar ceiling, Alana couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. The warning echoed, "Do not panic. Do not judge." What was he hiding? She told herself it was nothing. Business matters, family issues, normal privacy concerns. But deep down, a voice whispered that she'd made a terrible mistake, that the man down the hall wasn't a prince, that the warning wasn't a precaution. It was a threat. She pushed the thought away, willing herself to sleep. Tomorrow would be better. Tomorrow would make sense. But sleep came slowly. And when it did, her dreams were filled with shadows, locked doors, and a voice repeating, "Just remember what I said." "Where are you watching from?" Drop your location in the comments below. Let's see how far Alana's story has reached across the world. And if you made it here, type, "I am still here," in the comments. Let's show that her story won't be forgotten. Let's show that we're still here, still watching, still demanding accountability. Because every comment, every share, every voice added to hers makes it harder for cases like this to stay buried. So drop your comment. Let's see who stayed until the end. October 15th, 2023. Alana woke to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows and the smell of fresh coffee drifting through the penthouse. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then reality settled in. She was in Dubai, in a penthouse on the 120th floor of the tallest building in the world, in the home of a man she barely knew but had chosen over everything else. She got out of bed and followed the smell of coffee to the kitchen, where a private chef was preparing breakfast. The man didn't introduce himself, didn't make small talk. He simply nodded, plated eggs Benedict with smoked salmon, fresh fruit arranged like art, pastries that looked too beautiful to eat, and poured her coffee in a porcelain cup so delicate she was afraid it might shatter in her hands. Khaled appeared moments later, already dressed in tailored pants and a linen shirt that probably cost more than her monthly rent back in Atlanta. He smiled, kissed her cheek, a gesture that felt both intimate and strangely impersonal, and sat across from her. "How did you sleep?" he asked. Alana lied and said she slept well, not mentioning the restlessness, the strange dreams, the warning that had echoed in her mind until dawn. "Good," Khaled said, sipping his espresso. "Because today, I want to show you what your life could look like here." After breakfast, a car took them to the Dubai Mall, a structure so vast it felt less like a shopping center and more like a small city. Inside, the air was cool and perfumed, luxury boutiques lining corridors that seemed to stretch endlessly. Khalid walked beside her, his hand occasionally resting on the small of her back, guiding her through the crowds. They stopped at Cartier first. The sales associate greeted Khalid by name, which told Alana he was a regular customer. "Pick anything you like," Khalid said casually, as though he were offering her a piece of gum rather than jewelry worth thousands of dollars. Alana hesitated, overwhelmed by the displays of diamonds and gold. "I couldn't," she started, but Khalid gently interrupted. "You can. And you will. This is what I want to give you." She left Cartier with a bracelet that glittered on her wrist like captured starlight, a piece so delicate and expensive she was afraid to move her arm. Then came Chanel, where Khalid bought her 2 handbags, a pair of sunglasses, and a silk scarf. Then custom jewelry at a boutique where the designer measured her fingers and neck, promising to create pieces specifically for her. Alana felt like she was floating, like she'd stepped into someone else's life. At one point, standing in front of a mirror while a sales associate fastened a necklace around her throat, she caught Khalid's reflection watching her. His expression was pleased, almost satisfied, like someone admiring a possession they'd just acquired. During a quiet moment, Alana excused herself to the restroom and FaceTimed her sister, Kira. When Kira's face appeared on the screen, Alana saw the worry in her eyes immediately. "How is it?" Kira asked cautiously. Alana smiled, turning the camera to show the shopping bags surrounding her. "Kira, it's incredible. I can't even describe it. The penthouse, the city, everything. It's like a dream." She held up her wrist to show the Cartier bracelet. "He bought me this today. Just because." Kira tried to smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. That's amazing, Alana. But are you okay? Like, really okay?" Alana laughed, the sound a little too bright, a little too forced. "I'm more than okay. I made the right choice, Kira. I know everyone thinks I'm crazy, but I'm telling you, I made the right choice." Kira nodded slowly, but her expression remained troubled. "Just be careful, okay? And call me if you need anything. Anything at all." Alana promised she would and ended the call, pushing away the flicker of doubt Kira's concern had sparked. She was fine. Better than fine. She was living the life she'd always dreamed of. That afternoon, Khalid took her on his yacht, a gleaming vessel docked in the marina that looked more like a floating mansion than a boat. The deck was polished teak, the interior all white leather and glass. A crew moved silently through the space, anticipating needs before they were voiced. As the yacht cut through the turquoise waters of the Persian Gulf, Alana stood at the railing, the wind whipping her hair, the sun warm on her skin. For a moment, she felt genuinely happy. Free. Like she'd finally escaped the life that had weighed her down for so long. Khalid introduced her to business associates and socialites who boarded the yacht for champagne and conversation. They were polished, eloquent people who spoke multiple languages and referenced places Alana had only seen in magazines. And they treated her like she belonged, like she was one of them, complimenting her dress, her jewelry, asking about her background with interest that seemed genuine. But through it all, Khalid was always there, his hand on her shoulder, his voice guiding the conversation, his presence a constant anchor. He controlled the narrative effortlessly, steering discussions away from anything too personal, redirecting questions before Alana could reveal too much. She noticed it, but told herself it was just protectiveness, that he was looking out for her in a world she didn't yet understand. As the sun began to set and the guests departed, Khalid poured them both champagne and sat beside her on the deck. "You were perfect today," he said, his tone warm but evaluative. "Everyone loved you." Alana smiled, pleased by the compliment. "They were all so nice," she said. "I was nervous, but they made me feel welcome." Khalid nodded. "They did. But I need to ask you something." His tone shifted slightly, becoming more serious. "Your phone, I'd like the passcode, just for security purposes. When you're here, in my world, I need to make sure you're protected. There are people who might try to reach you, people who don't have your best interests at heart." Alana hesitated. Giving someone her phone passcode felt invasive, like handing over a piece of herself. But Khalid was looking at her with such concern, such sincerity, that she felt foolish for hesitating. "Okay," she said slowly, and told him the code. He entered it into his own phone, nodding. "Thank you," he said. "I know it seems strange, but trust me, it's for your safety." He continued, his voice gentle but firm. "I'd also suggest limiting your social media posts while you're here. Privacy is important to me, and I don't want people speculating about your life or my life. The less the world knows, the better." Alana nodded, though a small part of her felt uncomfortable. She'd built her online presence carefully, and going silent felt like disappearing. But she told herself it was temporary, that privacy made sense when you were with someone like Khalid. "Of course," she said. "I understand." Later, as they returned to the penthouse, Khalid mentioned almost casually, "There are a few rooms in the apartment that are off limits. Just business storage, client files, things that are confidential. Nothing interesting, really, but I'd appreciate it if you didn't go into them." Alana nodded. "Sure, no problem." Khalid smiled, satisfied. "Good. I knew you'd understand." That evening, Khalid had a late meeting with international clients. "I'll be gone for a few hours," he told her, kissing her forehead. "Make yourself at home. Order anything you want from the chef. Relax. I'll be back before you know it." And then he was gone, the door closing behind him with a soft click that echoed through the vast, empty space. Alana found herself alone in the penthouse for the first time since arriving. The silence was oppressive, heavy in a way that made her feel small. She wandered through the rooms, touching things tentatively. The books in the library that looked untouched. The gym equipment that gleamed under fluorescent lights. The art on the walls that she didn't understand but assumed was expensive. She opened doors to bedrooms she hadn't seen yet, each one as pristine and impersonal as the last. Everything was perfect. Too perfect. There was no mess, no personality, no sign that anyone actually lived here. At the end of the hall, she noticed a door she hadn't seen before. It was different from the others. Heavier, darker, with a digital keypad and a heavy deadbolt. She tried the handle instinctively, but it didn't budge. Locked. She pulled out the keycard Khalid had given her, the one that supposedly opened every door in the penthouse, and held it to the sensor. The light blinked red. Access denied. Alana stood there for a moment, staring at the door. Why would one room be locked if this was supposed to be her home too? What was inside that required a separate security system? Khalid's words echoed in her mind. Just business storage, nothing interesting. But if it was nothing interesting, why the deadbolt? Why the keypad? Why the secrecy? Curiosity prickled at the edges of her consciousness. She told herself to walk away, to respect Khalid's privacy, to trust that he had his reasons. But the door seemed to pull at her, a mystery she couldn't ignore. She reached out and touched the wood, cold and unyielding under her fingertips. What was he hiding? And why did the thought of it make her heart race with something that felt less like excitement and more like fear? She stepped back, telling herself she was being ridiculous. It was just a locked room. Everyone had boundaries. Everyone had private spaces. She walked back to the living room, poured herself a glass of wine, and sat by the window, staring out at the city lights. But her mind kept drifting back to that door at the end of the hall. The deadbolt, the keypad, the warning Khalid had given her the night before. If you ever discover them, do not panic. Do not judge. Discover what? What was behind that door? And why did she suddenly feel like she'd walked into something far more complicated than a fairy tale romance? The wine sat untouched in her hand as the city glittered below, beautiful and cold and indifferent. And somewhere in the back of her mind, a voice whispered that she should leave, that she should book a flight home, that she should run while she still could. But she didn't. She stayed. She waited for Khalid to come home. And the locked door at the end of the hall remained closed, keeping its secrets for one more night. Late night, October 15th, 2023. 1:47 a.m. Alana lay in bed, sleep impossible. The penthouse silence pressed down on her, just the hum of air conditioning and distant traffic far below. Khalid still hadn't returned from his meeting. Her text sat unread. The emptiness made her feel small, alone in ways she hadn't expected. Her phone charger, gone. Battery at 12%. Panic spiked. She needed that connection to the world, to Kira, to anything familiar. She searched everywhere, nightstands, dresser, bathroom, nothing. Maybe the living room, maybe the kitchen. She wrapped herself in a silk robe and padded barefoot through the dark penthouse, marble cold beneath her feet. City lights cast long shadows through the windows. She checked the living room. Nothing. Kitchen counters were empty except Khalid's closed laptop. She opened drawers, checked outlets, retraced her steps. Still nothing. Then she remembered. Earlier, she'd seen Khalid disappear down the hallway toward the locked room. Maybe her charger had ended up there, somehow. She walked down the hall, her footsteps silent. The locked door stood imposing at the end, digital keypad glowing faintly green. She tried the handle. Still locked. Her hand rested on the cold metal. Why would storage need such heavy security? As she passed the kitchen again, something caught her eye. On the counter, half hidden beneath mail, was a keycard. Black with gold edging. Different from hers. Khalid must have left it before his meeting. The keycard felt heavy in her palm, her heart hammering. This was wrong. Khalid had warned her. But curiosity overwhelmed everything else. What was he hiding? She stood in front of the door, hesitating. "It's probably just an office," she whispered. But she didn't believe it. Normal offices didn't need deadbolts and warnings about not panicking. Her hand trembled as she raised the keycard to the sensor. She could still turn back. But something deeper drove her forward. Survival instinct. A need to know who she'd really chosen. She pressed the keycard against the sensor. Green light. Soft click. The deadbolt released. Alana's heart stopped. Then slowly she pushed the door open. Darkness beyond. No light switch. Then her eyes adjusted. Red ambient lighting, dim and pulsing, cast everything in shadow. The glow came from deeper in the room. She stepped inside, bare feet crossing from marble to thick carpet. The smell hit immediately. Overwhelming, layered. Incense, thick and cloying, something earthy like soil after rain, and underneath, something alive. A musk she couldn't identify, animal and primal, that turned her stomach. Every instinct screamed to leave. But her feet kept moving forward. The room stretched deeper than should have been possible. Red light grew brighter, revealing horrifying details. Walls draped in dark fabric, covered in symbols she didn't recognize. Not Arabic, ancient, geometric, intentional. The floor's thick carpet gave way to bare stone carved with more symbols, circular patterns radiating outward like ripples in water. 5 glass terrariums arranged in a pentagonal formation around a circular platform. Red heat lamps above each one. Inside, snakes, large snakes, each a different species, scales gleaming, black with yellow bands, pale white with ice chip eyes, diamond patterns in brown and tan, beautiful and terrible. But the terrariums were open, lids off. The snakes weren't contained. They were free. On the circular platform, surrounded by carved symbols, was Khalid, shirtless, skin gleaming with oil, eyes closed, head tilted back, lips moving in silent chant. And the snakes were with him, one draped across his shoulders, another coiled at his feet, a third wound around his forearm. This wasn't meditation. This was communion. The snakes moved with his voice, synchronized, as though they understood him, as though they were part of him. His expression showed ecstasy, worship, complete surrender to whatever ritual he was performing. Alana couldn't breathe, couldn't move. This wasn't spirituality she recognized. This was something ancient and wrong and deeply unsettling. Khalid's chanting grew louder, rhythmic, incomprehensible. The snakes responded, their movements perfect with his voice. Then her phone slipped from her trembling hand. It hit the floor with a sharp crack that shattered the silence like a gunshot. Everything stopped. The chanting ceased. The snakes froze. Khalid's eyes snapped open, his head turning slowly toward where Alana stood. For a moment, he didn't move, just stared, his expression unreadable in red light. Then the snakes began to hiss, low, menacing, filling the room like static. Their bodies tensed, preparing to strike. And Khalid's face changed. The warmth, the charm, all vanished, replaced by something cold and hard and utterly inhuman. "Alana," he said quietly, his voice cutting through the hissing like a blade. "I told you not to come in here. If you're following this journey, please like, subscribe, and share it with friends and family. Staying informed keeps us all safer." His expression wasn't surprise. It was rage. Pure, cold, calculated rage transforming his face into something unrecognizable. The man who'd smiled over breakfast was gone. In his place was someone dangerous. The snakes began to hiss, low at first, then growing louder, sharper, filling the room with menacing static. Their bodies tensed, coiling tighter, preparing to strike. The one on his shoulders lifted its head, mouth opening to reveal gleaming fangs. The one at his feet unwound, body rippling toward the platform edge. "Oh my God," Alana gasped, stumbling backward. What is this?" Her voice cracked with horror. Khalid didn't move, remaining kneeling, snakes wrapped around him, eyes boring into hers. When he spoke, his voice was quiet, controlled. "Alana, I told you not to come in here." The snake on his shoulders began sliding down his chest. Alana screamed, backing toward the door. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I was looking for my charger." "You didn't know," Khalid repeated flatly. He rose slowly, snakes moving with him, adjusting positions. The oil made him look inhuman. "I warned you, Alana. I told you there were parts of me that were sacred. I told you not to panic, not to judge, but you couldn't listen." "Khalid, please," Alana begged, tears streaming. "What is this? What are you doing?" Khalid stepped toward her, snakes flowing with him. "This is who I am. This is the secret I warned you about. This is the power passed down through my family. The serpents are sacred, They connect me to forces you couldn't understand. They give me strength, clarity, control. His voice hardened. And you've just violated the most important rule I gave you. The snake reached the floor, moving toward Alana. She screamed, stumbling through the doorway, slamming against the hallway wall. Stay away from me. Khalid kept coming, stepping off the platform, other snakes following. You should have trusted me. You should have stayed out. But you couldn't. And now you know. And now we have a problem. Alana turned and ran, sprinting down the hallway, bare feet slapping marble, heart hammering. She heard him behind, not running, but walking steadily, unhurried, knowing she had nowhere to go. She reached her bedroom, slammed the door, locked it. Outside, Khalid's voice drifted through, calm and patient. Alana, open the door. Let me explain. But Alana wasn't listening. She was drowning in terror, replaying what she'd seen. She pulled out her phone. No service. Wi-Fi password protected. She was trapped, completely trapped. And outside, Khalid waited. Patient, calculating, knowing eventually she'd have to come out. And when she did, he'd make sure she understood that some secrets were never meant to be discovered. 10 minutes. Alana sat against the locked door, sobs racking her body. Her mind replayed it endlessly. Snakes coiling around Khalid, red light, carved symbols, the hissing. She couldn't make sense of it. This wasn't the man who'd courted her. This was something else, something wrong. 3 soft knocks. Alana, Khalid's voice came through, calm and controlled. Open the door. Let me explain. The warmth had returned as though he'd flipped a switch. Stay away from me, Alana screamed, scrambling up, backing away. She looked for something to defend herself with. Nothing. Just expensive furniture and silk. You're frightened. I understand, Khalid continued patiently. But if you let me explain, you'll see there's nothing to fear. What you saw was sacred. Part of who I am. Locking yourself in won't help. Soft click. The door swung open. Master key. Of course. Alana backed against the far wall as Khalid stepped in. Cleaned up now, white shirt, dark pants, hair damp. He looked normal. But she couldn't unsee what she'd witnessed. Don't come closer, she warned. Khalid raised his hands peacefully. I'm not going to hurt you. I just want to explain. He sat on the bed as though he belonged there. It's a spiritual practice passed down through my family. The serpents are sacred. They connect me to power, to God, to ancestors. Ancient wisdom most people dismissed. Spiritual practice. Alana's voice rose. You were covered in oil with snakes. That's not meditation. That's something else entirely. It's misunderstood, Khalid said calmly. In the West, you fear serpents. But in older traditions, snakes represent transformation, wisdom, eternal life. I warned you not to panic, not to judge, but you're doing both. Because that's not normal. That's not okay, Alana shouted. I want to leave. I want to go home. Right now. Something shifted in Khalid's eyes, harder, colder. You cannot leave. Not now. Not after seeing this. He stood slowly. Do you understand what you've witnessed? If this gets out, my reputation will be destroyed. My family's legacy tarnished. Everything I've built will collapse. I don't care about your reputation. I just want to leave. You signed a non-disclosure agreement, Khalid said matter-of-factly. At customs. You agreed not to discuss anything about your time here. Violating it has serious legal consequences. Criminal consequences. Alana's mind raced. She didn't remember signing that. Maybe she had. Maybe buried in paperwork. Or maybe he was lying. I didn't sign anything. Khalid smiled without warmth. You did. Whether you remember is irrelevant. And if you violate it, I have resources to make your life very difficult. He paused. I don't want that, but you must understand, some secrets must be protected. Now that you know mine, you're part of that protection, whether you want to be. You can't keep me here. People know where I am. Your sister thinks you're living your dream, Khalid interrupted. If you go silent, she'll assume you're busy. By the time she worries, it'll be too late. You're in Dubai, in my home. No phone service, no money, no way to leave without my help. Alana slid down the wall. This wasn't happening. She'd walked away from everything for this man, and now he was holding her hostage. Then we have a problem, Khalid said quietly. He pulled out her suitcase, setting it on the bed. Go ahead, pack. See how far you get. Alana pushed herself up, mechanically throwing clothes in the suitcase. Khalid watched with pity. You're making this harder than necessary. She zipped the suitcase, dragged it to the door. Khalid blocked the exit. Where will you go? The airport? You don't have a ticket. The embassy? What will you tell them? The police? This is Dubai. I have friends everywhere. You're a foreign woman accusing a prominent citizen of what, exactly? Having an unconventional practice? Alana's resolve cracked. Tears streamed down. She was trapped. Please just let me go. I won't tell anyone, I promise. Khalid stepped aside, gesturing to the door. Go ahead. But know this. If you try to leave, try to expose me, I'll make sure you regret it. I'll destroy your reputation the way you're threatening mine. The woman who abandoned her fiancé for money. And unlike you, I have the resources to make it stick. The shift was complete. Alana stood in the doorway, suitcase in hand, faced with a choice that wasn't a choice. Stay and be complicit. Or leave and face consequences she couldn't control. Either way, she'd lost. And as she looked into Khalid's cold eyes, she realized with horrifying clarity that she wasn't going to make it out of this penthouse alive. October 16th, 2023. Early morning light filtered through windows. Alana hadn't slept, spent the entire night on her bed, packed suitcase beside her, mind racing through desperate scenarios. Every plan collapsed. Every escape route hit a dead end. But at dawn, she decided she had to try something. She grabbed her phone, typing frantically, "Flights from Dubai to Atlanta." The page loaded endlessly, then, "No internet connection." Her heart sank. Wi-Fi showed connected. Full bars, but nothing worked. The internet was cut off. She switched to cellular data. No service. Signal bars empty. She toggled settings frantically, restarted the phone. Nothing. She tried calling Kira. No dial tone, just silence then. "Your call cannot be completed at this time." Khalid had blocked everything, cut her off completely. She was alone with no way to reach anyone, no way to call for help. She ran to the front door. Locked. Her keycard against the sensor. Red light. Access denied. Again and again. Red. 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 "No, no, no," she whispered, pounding the door. "Help! Someone help me!" But the penthouse was soundproofed, isolated on the 120th floor. No one would hear. She slid to the floor, sobbing. 24 hours ago she'd been shopping, wearing Cartier, believing she'd made the right choice. Now she was a prisoner. 2 hours later, footsteps. Khalid entered carrying breakfast, fruit, yogurt, pastries, coffee and porcelain. Dressed impeccably, perfectly styled, calm and pleasant, as though this were a normal morning. He didn't knock, simply walked in, setting the tray down. "Good morning. I thought you might be hungry." "You locked me in," Alana said, voice raw. "Cut off my phone, blocked the internet. You're keeping me prisoner." Khalid sighed as though she were unreasonable. "I'm keeping you safe. You're upset, not thinking clearly. I needed to make sure you didn't do something reckless." He held out the coffee. "Please sit. Have breakfast. You need to calm down and think rationally." "Rationally? You're holding me hostage." She knocked the cup from his hand. It shattered, coffee spreading like blood. Khalid looked at the broken cup, disappointment flickering. That was unnecessary. He left, returned with towels, kneeled to clean meticulously. The domesticity was surreal, horrifying. Acting like this was a minor inconvenience. He sat on the bed afterward, posture relaxed. "Let's talk. Rationally. Like adults." He gestured for her to sit. She pressed against the wall instead. "I understand you're frightened," he began slowly, like explaining to a child. What you saw was shocking. My fault. But running away isn't the solution. You need to understand what's at stake, for both of us. I don't care what's at stake for you. I want to leave. Khalid smiled sadly. I know, but it's not that simple. He leaned back. Let me remind you, over the past weeks, I've given you a great deal. Jewelry, handbags, clothes worth tens of thousands. Flights, accommodations, shopping, the yacht, the lifestyle. He paused. I invested in you, brought you into my world, showed you things I've shown very few people. You accepted all of it willingly. I didn't know what you were. You lied to me. I protected you from information you weren't ready for, Khalid corrected. There's a difference. Now that you know, you have a responsibility. You can't just walk away and destroy me. You don't get to just walk away. What are you saying? That I owe you because you bought me things? I'm saying actions have consequences. You made a choice to come here, to accept everything, to become part of my life. Now you've seen something you weren't supposed to see. That creates a complication. He stood, moving closer. I need to know you won't speak about what you saw. I need to trust your discretion. You can't keep me here. People know where I am. My sister, my family. If I don't contact them, they'll call the police, the embassy. Khalid's smile turned cold. Will they? Your family thinks you abandoned them for a rich man. Your sister thinks you're living your fantasy. Marcus thinks you're a gold digger. He tilted his head. Who's coming to save you, Alana? Who's going to believe you're in danger? You left everyone who cared about you. You burned every bridge. And now you're alone. The words hit like blows. He was right. She'd isolated herself completely. Blocked friends. Her mother was furious. Marcus wanted nothing to do with her. Even Kira thought she was just busy. They'll notice, Alana insisted weakly. Kira will worry. And when she can't reach you, what will she think? That you're busy with me? Living the life you chose? She won't worry. Not right away. And by the time she does... He left it hanging. Alana's knees weakened. She sank to the floor, trembling. Please, please just let me go. I won't tell anyone. I promise. I'll sign whatever you want. I'll delete all photos. Just please let me leave. Khalid looked down, almost pitying. I want to believe you. But promises mean little when people are frightened. Fear makes people unpredictable. He crouched to her level, face inches from hers. You need to understand. You're not leaving until I'm certain you won't be a threat. And right now, you're very much a threat. His hand reached out, tucking hair behind her ear. Tender, loving, which made it more terrifying. So here's what's happening. You're going to stay here. Calm down. Realize that fighting me is pointless. I have resources you can't imagine. Connections that reach further than you understand. If you try to leave, try to expose me, I will destroy you. Not just your reputation. I'll make sure everyone knows exactly who you are. The woman who abandoned her fiancé for money. Who lied and manipulated. I'll paint you as the villain, and people will believe me because I have the wealth and influence to make them believe. Tears streamed down Alana's face. You can't do this. I can, Khalid said simply. And I will. Until you understand your only option is to cooperate. He stood. Now, I have meetings. Business. The breakfast is here if you want it. I suggest you eat and rest. You look exhausted. He paused at the door. Oh, and Alana, don't try to break the windows. They're reinforced glass, and we're 120 stories up. Even if you could break them, which you can't, the fall would kill you. The door closed. The lock clicked. Alana was left alone, trapped in a luxury prison, with the horrifying realization that the man she'd chosen wasn't just hiding secrets. He was a predator, and she was his prey. Hours passed, impossible to count. Time stretched and compressed. Alana sat on the floor, back against the wall, staring at nothing. The untouched breakfast tray sat on the dresser, fruit browning. She refused to eat. Eating felt like surrender. Midday, Khalid returned. No knocking. Carrying white roses, pristine, expensive, perfect. He arranged them beside the breakfast tray like decorating for romance rather than captivity. I thought these might brighten your mood. White roses, new beginnings, fresh starts. He turned, concerned. You haven't eaten. That's not good. You need strength. Alana didn't respond. Eyes on the floor, refusing engagement. Khalid sighed, patient disappointment. This silent treatment isn't helping. I'm trying to take care of you. Show you things don't have to be difficult. When she still didn't respond, his tone shifted, subtle but chilling. Fine. If you're going to behave like a child, I'll treat you like one. He unplugged her phone charger, coiling the cord. You won't need this if you're not being reasonable. The psychological warfare became rhythm. Khalid returned every few hours, alternating between charm and menace. Sometimes gifts, silk scarf, poetry book, pastries. Other times taking things. Her laptop, extra blankets, the TV remote. Each action calculated to show he controlled everything. He made promises, then broke them casually. I'll let you call your sister tomorrow. Tomorrow came. I said we'd discuss it. You're still too emotional. The timeline for leaving kept shifting. A few days, a week. When I'm confident you understand. Goalposts always moving, hope evaporating when she tried to hold it. The gaslighting was relentless. You're overreacting. What you saw was just meditation. A spiritual ritual practiced for thousands of years. The fact you found it disturbing says more about your cultural conditioning. That wasn't meditation, Alana would protest. Prayer, Khalid corrected gently. The serpents are sacred. They represent wisdom, transformation, eternal life. Many cultures revere snakes. Ancient Egypt, Hinduism, indigenous traditions. You're frightened because Western Christianity demonized them. That's just one limited perspective. He'd lean forward, eyes locked on hers. I thought you were different, open-minded, capable of understanding things beyond your immediate experience. That's why I brought you here. But maybe I was wrong. Maybe you're just like everyone else, quick to judge, trapped in the narrow worldview you were raised in. The words burrowed in, planting doubt. Was she overreacting? Was this legitimate spiritual practice she didn't understand? Had cultural bias created her fear? But then she'd remember the hissing, the snakes moving toward her, the rage in Khalid's eyes, the cold calculation. And she'd know. This wasn't cultural misunderstanding. This was control disguised as spirituality. You're being hysterical, Khalid would say when she became emotional. This is why I kept it private. Women get emotional, stop thinking logically. They let fear override reason. I hoped you'd be different. Strong enough to handle the truth. But maybe you're just another fragile woman who can't cope outside her comfort zone. The misogyny was blatant, delivered with such conviction that Alana found herself internalizing it. Maybe she was hysterical, maybe overreacting. No. The word cut through like a knife. No. She was terrified, and she had every right to be. This was abuse, not misunderstanding. But knowing it and surviving it were different. She was exhausted, over 30 hours without sleep. Body aching, mind fragmenting. She needed to escape. But how? Doors locked, windows unbreakable. No phone service, no money, no passport. Khalid had taken it for safekeeping. Trapped in every way. Unless she made him believe she'd given up. Convinced him the fight was gone, that she'd accepted her situation, was ready to cooperate. It would require performance, swallowing rage and fear. But it might be her only chance. That evening, when Khalid entered with dinner, Alana forced herself to look at him. Really look. She schooled her expression into something softer, resigned. I'm sorry, she said quietly. Words like ash. I've been thinking about what you said, about overreacting, about not understanding. Khalid paused, studying her. Set the tray down slowly, cautious. Go on. She took a shaky breath, forcing tears. I was just shocked. I've never seen anything like that. I panicked. But you're right. I don't understand your culture, your traditions. I was judging something I don't know. She looked down. I need time to process this, to understand. But I don't want to fight anymore. I'm exhausted. Khalid's expression softened. He sat beside her, not too close, giving space, calculated to make her feel safe. That's very mature. I know this has been difficult, but I believe you're capable of growth, of expanding your understanding. He took her hand. She fought not to recoil. I want us to work. I brought you here because I saw potential. I don't want to be your jailer. I want to be your partner. I want that too, Alana lied smoothly. But I need you to trust me, and I need some things back. My phone so I can feel connected, my laptop, little things that make me feel less isolated. Khalid considered, thumb rubbing circles on her hand. I can do that. I can give you your phone back. But Alana, his grip tightened slightly. If you use it to contact anyone, to expose me or ask for help, I'll know. I'll know immediately. And then we're back to square one. Do you understand? I understand. I just want to feel normal. I won't jeopardize that. Khalid smiled, satisfied. Good. I'll get your phone. Tomorrow we can talk about other privileges, but only if you continue showing me you're trustworthy. He returned with her phone. The passcode is the same, but remember, I'm monitoring it. I can see everything. Every text, search, app. Don't make me regret this. I won't, Alana promised. She waited until he left, until his footsteps retreated, then turned on the phone with shaking hands. Screen lit up. She had it back. But navigating settings, she realized the truth. Connected to his network. He had full access. Could see everything. But that didn't mean she couldn't use it. Just meant she had to be smarter. Find a way to send a signal. Let someone know she was in danger, without triggering surveillance. It would require careful planning. Patience she wasn't sure she had. But it was a chance. Maybe her only one. And Alana was determined not to waste it. October 16th, 2023. Evening descended, city lights flickering to life across Dubai. Inside the penthouse, oppressive silence. Alana lay on her bed, phone clutched, watching the door, listening, waiting for Khalid's movements to cease, for the quiet that meant sleep. Hours passed agonizingly. She heard him moving. Footsteps, running water, a door closing. Around 10:30 p.m., sounds stopped. Alana waited another 30 minutes, counting seconds, body coiled with tension. Then she slipped out of bed, bare feet silent on marble. She crept to her door, opening it inch by inch, wincing at every creak. The hallway was dark except for city glow through windows. Khalid's bedroom door at the far end, closed, no light beneath it. Asleep. She prayed. She moved like a ghost, heart hammering so loud she was certain it would wake him. Front door first, hope flaring, then crushed, still locked. Keycard, red light, access denied. She pressed her ear to the door, listening for sounds outside. Nothing, only silence. Her mind raced. There had to be another way. A phone line not monitored, a computer not locked down. Then she remembered. Khalid's office. If he kept business records, he must have a computer. And if he'd been confident giving her the monitored phone, maybe he'd been careless with his laptop. She found the office past the library. The door was ajar, soft blue light spilling out. He'd left it open. She pushed wider and stepped inside. Masculine, minimal. Dark wood desk, leather chair, bookshelves. And there, on the desk, his laptop. Open. Screen glowing softly. She approached cautiously, touched the trackpad. Screen brightened. Security footage. Multiple camera feeds in a grid. Her blood turned to ice. Her bedroom. Living room. Kitchen. Hallways. Entrance. Cameras everywhere. He'd been watching her the entire time. Every moment she thought she was alone. The privacy she'd believed in was illusion. He'd seen everything. crying, pacing, desperate searches, breaking down, pretending to submit. One feed showed her bedroom in real time. Empty bed, open door. He'd know she wasn't there, unless he was asleep. Unless he'd left the laptop running unwatched. She had to move fast. She minimized. The feeds. Opened a browser. Fingers flying. Navigated to her email with shaking hands. Login page loaded. She entered her password. Denied. Again. Still denied. Khalid had changed it or blocked access. Different approach. New anonymous email account. But it required phone verification. She didn't have access without his surveillance. Another provider. Same problem. Everything required verification he controlled. Desperation mounting, she opened Khalid's email. Already logged in. Messages filling the inbox. She clicked compose, typing frantically. My name is Alana Brooks. I'm an American citizen being held against my will at Burj Khalifa, 120th floor, by Khalid Al-Rami. Please send help. Please contact the U.S. Embassy. I'm in danger. He won't let me leave. Please. She typed Marcus's email, then Kira's, then her mother's. Anyone who might understand. Her finger hovered over send. What are you doing? The voice. Doorway. Quiet. Cold. Alana's head snapped up, terror flooding through. Khalid stood there in sleep clothes, expression utterly devoid of charm. This was the real man, the one from the ritual room, the one who'd locked her in, who'd stripped away every pretense. Khalid, But he crossed the room in 3 strides, hand slamming the laptop closed before she could send. The impact so violent the desk shook. I gave you your phone back. I gave you freedom. I gave you trust. And this is what you do. His voice low, dangerous, eyes black with rage, jaw clenched. You just couldn't listen, could you? You had to keep pushing, keep testing, keep trying to destroy me. Let me go, Alana screamed. Just let me go. I won't tell anyone. Just let me leave. She bolted for the door, but Khalid was faster. His hand shot out, grabbing her arm with bruising force. You're not going anywhere, he snarled, yanking her back. She stumbled, hips slamming into the desk. Pain radiated, but adrenaline overwhelmed it. She clawed at his face, nails raking across his cheek, drawing blood. Khalid hissed, grip loosening, long enough for her to wrench free. She ran, through the office, down the hallway, bare feet slapping marble. Didn't know where she was going. Front door locked. Windows unbreakable. Nowhere to run. But survival instinct overrode logic. She just ran. Khalid caught her in the living room, arm around her waist, lifting her off the ground. Alana screamed, raw, primal, kicked backward, heel connecting with his shin. He grunted but didn't release. She thrashed, elbows flying, trying to hit anything. Stop! Khalid roared, but Alana couldn't stop. If she stopped fighting, she was dead. She knew it with absolute certainty. This man would kill her before letting her go, before letting her expose him, before risking his reputation. They crashed into furniture. Side table shattered, lamp fell, glass breaking. Alana felt shards cut her feet but didn't feel pain. She twisted, facing him, raked nails down his chest. Khalid's expression contorted with rage. His hand came up, fingers closing around her throat. You should have just stayed quiet, he hissed. His grip tightened. Alana gasped, hands flying to his wrists, trying to pry his fingers away. But he was stronger. So much stronger. Her vision blurred, black spots dancing. She fought. God, she fought. Legs kicked, nails tore at his hands, drawing blood. She tried to scream, but no sound came. Just choked, desperate wheeze as her airway collapsed. Khalid's face was a mask of cold determination. Not rage, not emotion. Just calculation. Just clinical efficiency of someone solving a problem. Alana's struggles weakened. Hands fell away, strength draining. Black spots expanded, merging, swallowing the world. Her last thought was of Marcus, his face when she'd told him she was leaving, the hurt in his eyes, the love she'd thrown away. For this nightmare, for this death, she should have stayed, should have chosen him. Should have known fairy tales don't exist and men who promise paradise are always hiding hell. Her body went limp. Khalid held his grip for another 30 seconds, making sure. When he finally released her, Alana Brooks collapsed to the marble floor like a broken doll, eyes open and unseeing, neck bruised with the imprint of his fingers. Time of death, approximately 11:47 p.m., October 16, 2023. Khalid stood over her body, breathing hard, blood from scratches dripping onto his shirt. He stared down for a long moment, expression unreadable. Then calmly, methodically, he pulled out his phone and made a call. "I need cleanup," he said in Arabic, voice steady. "And I need our legal team. We have a situation." He hung up and looked down at Alana one more time. "You should have just listened," he said quietly, as though she could still hear. As though any of this was her fault. Then he stepped over her body and walked to his bedroom to change his bloodied clothes. Within the hour, his security team would arrive. The scene would be cleaned, evidence manufactured, and Khalid al-Rami would begin constructing the narrative that would ensure he remained untouchable, even in the face of murder. Alana Brooks had come to Dubai seeking a dream. Instead, she'd found a nightmare she would never wake from. And the man who killed her would face no consequences, protected by wealth, power, and a system designed to shield men like him from accountability. The penthouse fell silent. The city glittered below, indifferent and eternal. And somewhere in Atlanta, Marcus Thornton slept unaware that the woman he'd loved, the woman who'd broken his heart, would never come home. Khalid, now in fresh clothes, watched from the bedroom doorway. "She broke into my office, was trying to steal information from my laptop, sensitive business documents. When I confronted her, she became violent. I had no choice but to defend myself." The lie came easily, practiced. Faisal nodded, not because he believed it, but because belief didn't matter. Loyalty mattered. Discretion mattered. The al-Rami family paid extremely well for both. "We'll handle it. By morning, this will be resolved." The cleanup team worked with clinical precision, photographs first, documenting from angles that supported Khalid's narrative. Broken furniture arranged perfectly. Alana's body positioned to suggest aggression rather than desperate self-defense. Scratches photographed as evidence of attack. Then, the real work. Alana's body wrapped in plastic, face covered, limbs positioned to minimize rigor mortis complications. One man injected something into her bloodstream, chemicals to confuse time of death estimates, buying Khalid hours to perfect his story. They worked in near silence, movements choreographed through repetition, blood cleaned with specialized solutions eliminating trace evidence, broken glass collected, catalogued, selectively preserved, pieces supporting the narrative kept, contradicting ones discarded. Furniture repaired or replaced with identical pieces from building storage. By 3 a.m., the living room looked pristine, perfect. No evidence anyone had died there, but security footage required delicate handling. Khalid's lawyer, Rashid Al-Mansouri, arrived at 2:15 a.m. Slim, 50s, silver-streaked hair, calculating eyes from decades protecting wealthy clients. He reviewed raw footage with Khalid and Faisal, identifying moments needing alteration, enhancement, fabrication. Footage of Alana entering Khalid's office was kept, showing her sneaking, appearing furtive, guilty, but timestamps adjusted to suggest later timing. Her typing on the laptop preserved but context removed. Viewers would see frantic typing but not know what or why. It looked like theft, stealing business secrets. The living room struggle required extensive editing. Original footage clearly showed Khalid pursuing, grabbing, initiating violence. That had to be reversed. Using sophisticated software, the technical team, working remotely, real-time, reconstructed the sequence. Now footage appeared to show Alana attacking first, lunging at Khalid with what the edited version suggested might be a weapon. Khalid's response looked defensive, restrained, a man protecting himself. Earlier footage from previous days was selectively edited. Moments where Alana appeared upset or frightened were isolated, enhanced, showing her pacing, crying, behaving erratically. Context stripped away. Viewers wouldn't know she was terrified from being locked in, crying because she was prisoner. They'd only see a woman appearing increasingly unhinged, building toward inevitable violent outburst. Audio manipulated similarly. Alana saying, "I don't care about your reputation, I just want to leave." Edited to remove the second half, leaving only, "I don't care about your reputation," making her sound spiteful, vindictive rather than desperate. By dawn October 17th, the narrative was complete. Khalid transformed from murderer to victim. And Alana, dead, unable to defend herself, reconstructed as villain of her own story. At 8:30 a.m., Khalid called Dubai police. Voice shaken, traumatized, performance flawless. "I need to report an incident. A woman attacked me in my home last night. An American woman I'd been hosting. She became violent when I discovered her attempting to steal. I was forced to defend myself. She's dead. It was self-defense, but she's dead." Police arrived within 20 minutes. Deference immediate. He was prominent, influential, a name carrying weight. Officers treated him with careful respect reserved for people who could end careers with phone calls. Khalid gave his statement with perfect composure. Alana had seemed unstable from arrival, moody, unpredictable, fixated on money. He'd been kind, hosting her, showing her the city, but she'd become increasingly demanding. When he'd gently suggested it was time to return home, she'd become enraged. She accused me of using her, demanded compensation for her time, as though our relationship had been transactional. He showed his scratched face and chest, real wounds, fabricated story. Last night, I caught her in my office accessing my computer, financial records, business documents. When I confronted her, she attacked. I tried to restrain her, calm her down, but she was beyond reason. Security footage presented as evidence, edited versions seamlessly integrated. Officers watched Alana sneaking, typing frantically, lunging in apparent attack. They saw a woman unstable, erratic, dangerous, a man defending himself. Alana's body, delivered to the morgue hours earlier, told a story consistent with strangulation during struggle. Scratches on Khalid confirmed altercation. Forensic timeline, manipulated by chemicals, suggested death during confrontation rather than execution. Everything aligned. Everything supported Khalid's version. Khalid had every advantage. Money purchased the best lawyers. Influence ensured his statement carried more weight than contradicting evidence. Connections meant uncomfortable questions never asked. Investigations perfunctory. Process moving quickly toward conclusions protecting him. Alana's past worked against her in death. News of abandoning Marcus spread through social media. Comments calling her Golddigger, accusations of materialism, all documented, public, easy to find. Khalid's lawyers compiled screenshots, building a character profile of a woman obsessed with wealth, willing to betray those who loved her. She left a good man for money, came to Dubai seeking financial gain. When my client didn't provide what she expected, she attempted to steal it. Her own family called her mercenary. Her actions were entirely consistent with her established character. Character assassination, but effective. By the time Marcus and Kira learned what happened, the narrative was set. The gold digger who got what she deserved. The cautionary tale about women who chase money instead of love. None of it was true, but truth didn't matter. Khalid had money, power, the ability to bend reality. And Alana, already judged harshly, already dismissed, had no one to fight for her version, no one to demand justice, no one powerful enough to challenge the machinery protecting her killer. By noon, October 17th, 12 hours after murder, the official story was complete. Khalid al-Rami, respected businessman, forced to defend himself against unstable American woman who attacked during attempted theft. Tragic, unfortunate, but ultimately unavoidable. Clear self-defense. No charges filed. Khalid returned to his penthouse that afternoon, marble floors gleaming, ritual room locked, secrets safe. He poured scotch, stood by the window, looking at the city that protected him. That would always protect men like him. Alana Brooks was dead. Her body in a Dubai morgue, truth silenced forever. The man who killed her faced no consequences. Shielded by wealth, power, a system ensuring some lives matter more than others. Justice would never come. But the fight for it, desperate, painful, ultimately insufficient, was only beginning. October 18th, 2023. Marcus Thornton was rewiring an outlet when his phone rang. Kira Brooks, Alana's younger sister. His stomach tightened. They hadn't spoken since Alana left. He almost didn't answer, focused on work, trying to lose himself in problems with clear solutions, unlike the wreckage of his life. But something made him check the screen. Kira, what's up? Marcus, something's wrong. Her voice was high, strained, panicked. I can't reach Alana. 2 days. She's not answering calls, texts. Instagram hasn't been updated. I know you probably don't care, but I'm really worried and don't know who else to call. Despite everything, the anger, betrayal, hurt, some part of him still cared. Not about Alana, he told himself, but about Kira, who'd always been kind, who'd tried to talk her sister out of leaving. Have you tried calling Khalid? I don't have his number. Alana never gave it to me. But Marcus, 2 days of complete silence? That's not like her. Even avoiding everyone else, she always answered my calls. Always. Her voice cracked. Please. I know I have no right to ask, but can you help me? You always knew how to fix things. Marcus made a decision he'd later recognize as the moment everything changed. Okay. Let me make some calls. He searched for the U.S. Embassy in Dubai and dialed. After several menus, a consular officer named David Chen answered. Marcus explained the situation. An American citizen in Dubai. Family unable to reach her for 2 days. Concerned something happened. Pause. Typing. Then Chen's voice returned, more careful. Can you tell me your relationship to Ms. Brooks? I'm someone her family asked to help locate her. Why? Is there a problem? I'm going to transfer you to our crisis management team. Please hold. Crisis management. Marcus's heart hammered. That wasn't the response when someone was fine. That was the response when something had gone very, very wrong. Sarah Mitchell answered, Deputy Consul for American Citizen Services. Voice gentle but direct, trained to deliver bad news. Mr. Thornton, I understand you're inquiring about Alana Marie Brooks. Yes, what's happened? Is she okay? I'm very sorry to have to tell you this. Marcus felt his legs weaken. He sat on the client's front steps, phone pressed hard against his ear. Ms. Brooks passed away in the early hours of October 17th. We received notification from Dubai authorities yesterday. Passed away. Dead. Alana was dead. What happened? According to the official report from Dubai police, Ms. Brooks was involved in an incident at a private residence. The homeowner reported she became violent during a confrontation and he was forced to defend himself. The authorities have classified it as self-defense. There will be no criminal charges filed. Self-defense? Someone killed her and claimed self-defense? That's what the official report states. The U.S. Embassy is working with Dubai authorities to have Ms. Brooks's remains returned to the United States. I'm very sorry for your loss. Marcus felt like he was falling. Alana was dead. The woman he'd loved, who'd broken his heart 2 weeks before their wedding, she was dead. Killed by the man she'd left him for. Who was it? Khalid Ibrahim Al-Rami, a UAE national. Ms. Brooks was a guest in his residence when the incident occurred. And they believed him? Just took his word? Dubai has its own legal system. The U.S. Embassy can advocate, but we can't override local authority decisions. If the family wishes to pursue additional investigation, there are channels, but I have to be honest. These cases rarely result in prosecution, especially in Dubai. Marcus stood, pacing, hands shaking. Some rich guy kills an American woman and just says self-defense and everyone accepts it? That's not justice. I understand your frustration. I can connect you with international law firms that specialize in these cases, advocacy organizations. but these cases rarely result in prosecution. Marcus called Kira back. She answered on the first ring. Did you find anything? Kira, his voice broke on her name. I'm so sorry. Alana's dead. The embassy just told me. The sound Kira made wasn't quite a scream, something more primal, a keening wail Marcus felt in his bones. He listened to her sob, his own tears streaming despite everything. Because regardless of what Alana had done, she hadn't deserved to die. How? What happened? Marcus told her. Official story, self-defense claim, no charges. With each detail, Kira's sobs intensified. That's not true. Alana wouldn't attack someone. She was scared of confrontation. This doesn't make sense. I know, I don't believe it either. For the next hour they stayed on the phone, processing grief together. Kira called her mother, who collapsed. The family began the awful process of contacting relatives, navigating international bureaucracy while drowning in shock. But Marcus's mind moved beyond grief toward determination. This wasn't about his hurt feelings anymore. This was about murder disguised as justice. A man who'd killed her and was going to walk away free because he had money, power, connections. That night, Marcus researched articles about Dubai's legal system, cases where foreign nationals died under suspicious circumstances. Every article confirmed justice in these cases was rare, almost unheard of. But he also found international law firms specializing in exactly these cases. Advocacy organizations, journalists who'd covered similar stories. On October 19th, using money saved for the wedding, Marcus hired the Mitchell-Kent International Law Group. The lead attorney, Catherine Mitchell, was blunt. These cases are extremely difficult. Dubai authorities have closed their investigation. Khalid al-Rami has substantial resources and political connections. Even if we find evidence of wrongdoing, getting Dubai to reopen the case will be nearly impossible. But not completely impossible? No, not completely. If we can demonstrate insufficient investigation, find inconsistencies, generate enough international pressure, there's a chance, a small one. Then that's what we do. Whatever it costs, whatever it takes. Alana made mistakes, and what she did to me was wrong. But she didn't deserve to die. And the man who killed her shouldn't get to just walk away. Within days, the Mitchell-Kent team began investigating. They immediately found inconsistencies, timestamps that didn't align, security footage that appeared edited, forensic details that contradicted self-defense. But getting Dubai authorities to acknowledge these inconsistencies was another matter entirely. Marcus also contacted journalists, including Rebecca Walsh from The Guardian, who'd covered deaths of foreigners in Gulf states. This fits a pattern: wealthy locals involved in incidents with foreign nationals, claims of self-defense, investigations that close within hours. If I can get enough details, this could be significant. By late October, media coverage began. American woman dies in Dubai under suspicious circumstances. Questions mount over self-defense claim. Family demands independent investigation. The coverage brought attention, but also meant Alana's personal life became public fodder. The fact she'd left her fiancé weeks before the wedding was mentioned in every article. Comment sections filled with judgment. She'd gotten what she deserved for being a gold digger. Her death was karma. Marcus had to stop reading comments. The cruelty was unbearable. People reducing Alana's entire life to one bad decision, justifying her murder by pointing to her flaws. But he kept pushing forward, kept working with lawyers, kept giving interviews, kept demanding that someone hold Khalid al-Rami accountable. Dubai authorities resisted every effort, refused to reopen the investigation, refused to acknowledge inconsistencies, refused to entertain that Khalid's story wasn't complete truth. The message was clear. The case was closed. But Marcus didn't stop. He couldn't. Because stopping meant accepting Alana died for nothing, that her killer faced no consequences, that money and power could erase murder. He'd failed to save her when she was alive, failed to make her see that what she was chasing wasn't worth what she was leaving behind. But maybe he could fight for her in death, make sure her story was told truthfully, ensure that even if justice never came, people would know what really happened. It wouldn't bring her back. Nothing would. But it was all he had left to give her. 3 weeks after Alana's death, her body came home. Marcus stood in the back of the funeral home, watching people who judged her, called her selfish, materialistic, now file past her casket with tears. The hypocrisy made him sick. Where were these tears when she needed support? But Kira's grief was different. Real. She collapsed at the casket, sobs so raw Marcus had to look away. Denise, Alana's mother, stood rigid and silent, face a mask of devastation beyond tears. A mother's worst nightmare, burying her child knowing their last words had been angry. "How could you do this to that man?" she'd screamed. And now Alana was dead, and those words could never be taken back. Marcus couldn't stop thinking about his own last words. The silence. Letting her walk out without fighting, without telling her one more time that he loved her, that she was enough. Maybe if he'd said those things, she'd still be alive. The independent autopsy results came back 2 days after the funeral, shattering the official narrative like glass. Dr. Patricia Reeves, forensic pathologist hired by Mitchell Kent, had examined Alana's body before burial. During a video call with Marcus and Catherine Mitchell, Dr. Reeves didn't mince words. This was murder, not self-defense, not a struggle gone wrong, premeditated, sustained, intentional murder. "Walk us through it," Catherine said. Dr. Reeves pulled up photographs, images Marcus would see in nightmares for years. Alana's neck, bruised in distinct pattern of manual strangulation. These bruising patterns tell a story. The pressure was applied from the front, sustained for at least 2 to 3 minutes. That's not someone defending themselves in panic. That's someone who made a decision and followed through. Alana showed defensive wounds on her hands and arms consistent with trying to fight off her attacker. She was clawing at his hands, trying to break free. This wasn't mutual combat. This was someone being killed while trying desperately to survive. Marcus felt bile rise. He closed his eyes, but that made it worse. He could see it too clearly. Alana, terrified, fighting for her life while Khalid's hands closed around her throat. The timeline in the Dubai police report is also wrong. They stated time of death as approximately midnight. Based on rigor mortis, liver temperature, other physiological markers, I'd place it closer to 11:45 p.m., more than 15 minutes earlier. That contradicts key elements of Khalid's statement. What else? Evidence of chemical intervention post-mortem. Someone injected a compound into her bloodstream after death, likely to confuse time of death estimates and give the killer more time to construct his narrative. This level of sophistication suggests premeditation and access to resources. This wasn't a crime of passion. This was calculated. "So we have proof," Marcus said, voice hoarse. "We can prove he murdered her." Dr. Reeves's expression softened. "We have evidence that contradicts the official story. Whether that translates to justice..." She trailed off, leaving the painful truth unspoken. But the evidence did something else. It opened doors that had been locked. Within days, Rebecca Walsh published a comprehensive investigation in The Guardian. Death in Dubai, the American Woman and the Billionaire's Secret. The article laid out every inconsistency, every red flag. And it included testimonies from people who'd worked for Khalid and were finally willing to speak. Former staff members spoke only under guarantees of anonymity, terrified of retaliation. But their stories painted a chilling picture. "He wasn't a normal employer," one former housekeeper said, voice disguised. "There were rooms we were never allowed to enter, sounds we heard at night that we were instructed to ignore. And there were women, young, beautiful women from other countries, who would visit and then leave suddenly, sometimes in the middle of the night. Sometimes we'd hear screaming, then nothing." A former driver described picking up women from the airport, driving them to Khalid's properties. "But some of them, I never drove back. I'd ask what happened, and I'd be told to mind my business. After a while, you stop asking questions." Most chilling was Amira, a former personal assistant who'd fled Dubai and rebuilt her life in London. Her story was devastating. He had rituals. With snakes. He kept them in a special room, 5 of them. He believed they gave him power. He'd spend hours in there, and God help anyone who interrupted him. She paused. There was another woman, before I left. An Italian girl, maybe 25. She'd been there about a week when I heard her screaming one night. I wanted to help, but security told me if I interfered, I'd never leave Dubai. The next day, she was gone. Just gone. When I asked where she went, Khalid smiled and said she'd decided to continue traveling. But I saw his face, I saw his hands, and I knew he was lying. Did you report it? Walsh asked. Amira's laugh was bitter. To who? The police? They worship men like Khalid. I reported nothing. I finished my contract and got out as fast as I could. I've spent 3 years trying to forget. And then I saw the news about the American woman, and I realized I couldn't stay silent anymore, even if it means he might come after me. Because she's dead, and I could have said something sooner. The article went viral. Within hours, shared across social media, covered by major news outlets. The questions were impossible to ignore. How many others? How many women had Khalid brought to Dubai with promises, only to kill them when they discovered his secrets? Marcus read every word 3 times, anger solidifying into something harder, colder. This wasn't just about Alana anymore. This was about a predator operating with impunity for God knows how long. Kira called after reading it, voice shaking. She went there to chase a dream, and she walked into a slaughterhouse. Marcus, what if there were others? We're going to find out. We're going to make sure everyone knows what he did. Even if we can't put him in prison, we'll make sure the world knows his name and what he is. But knowing and proving were different. Dubai authorities refused to comment. Khalid's lawyers dismissed the testimonies as fabrications, threatened legal action. The message, keep talking, and we'll destroy you. Yet the questions remained. How many others? The 3 words haunted Marcus. He'd lie awake imagining other women, other Alanas, stepping off planes with hope, believing they were being chosen, and then discovering the truth too late. Investigators began looking into unsolved disappearances, women who'd traveled to the UAE and never returned. The numbers were impossible to verify, but patterns emerged. At least 7 women in the past decade had visited Khalid's properties and subsequently vanished or died under circumstances officially labeled accidents, suicides, or misadventures. 7. And those were just the ones they could document. How many secrets were buried in desert sand? How many families had accepted official explanations because challenging them seemed impossible? Alana's death had pulled back a curtain, revealing darkness hiding in plain sight. And Marcus understood that even if they never got justice for her specifically, they'd exposed something that needed to be seen. They'd given voice to victims who'd been silenced. They'd asked the question everyone had been too afraid to ask. How many more would die before someone with power decided that enough was enough? Justice, in the end, never came. Not in the way it should have. Not in any way that mattered. Khalid al-Rami was never formally charged with murder. The Dubai authorities, despite mounting international pressure, despite the forensic evidence that contradicted their official report, despite testimonies from former staff members and the questions raised by journalists around the world, they refused to reopen the case. The investigation remained closed. The ruling remained self-defense, and Khalid remained free. There was a settlement, of course. That's how these things are resolved when the powerful want problems to disappear. In March 2024, 5 months after Alana's death, Khalid's legal team reached out to the Brooks family through intermediaries. They offered financial compensation, a sum that was never publicly disclosed but was rumored to be in the millions. Blood money, dressed up in legal terminology, a payment to make the family go away quietly. Denise Brooks, Alana's mother, initially refused. "I don't want his money," she told Marcus over the phone, her voice raw with grief and rage. "I want him in prison. I want him to face what he did." But the lawyers explained, with the gentle cruelty of people who'd had this conversation before, that prison wasn't an option, that Dubai wouldn't extradite him, that the American justice system had no jurisdiction, that fighting would cost hundreds of thousands in legal fees with almost no chance of success. The settlement, they said, was the closest thing to accountability they would ever get. In the end, Denise accepted. Not because she wanted to, not because it felt like justice, but because she was exhausted. Because the medical bills from her daughter's funeral had drained her savings. Because continuing to fight meant reliving Alana's death every single day, and she simply couldn't survive that. The settlement came with one condition, a non-disclosure agreement. The family could not discuss the terms, could not publicly accuse Khalid, could not pursue further legal action. Silence in exchange for money. It was, Marcus thought bitterly, exactly the kind of transaction Khalid understood. But the settlement didn't buy silence from everyone. Marcus had never been family, so he wasn't bound by the NDA. Rebecca Walsh continued investigating and publishing updates. Advocacy organizations took up Alana's case as part of broader campaigns about the treatment of foreign nationals in Gulf states. Alana's story became a cautionary tale, a rallying cry, a symbol of what happens when wealth and power exist without accountability. As for Khalid, he retreated further from public life. His social media accounts went dark. His business dealings became even more opaque, conducted through layers of shell companies and intermediaries. He stopped attending the few public events he'd previously shown up to. He became, in essence, a ghost, present but invisible, wealthy but untouchable, guilty but unpunished. His empire remained intact. The billions didn't disappear. The properties in Dubai, London, Paris, Monaco, all still registered in his name or his family's trusts. He continued to live in luxury, protected by systems designed to shield men like him from consequences. And somewhere in that penthouse on the 120th floor of Burj Khalifa, behind a locked door at the end of a long hallway, 5 snakes still lived in their glass terrariums, waiting for their next ritual. There was public outcry, certainly. Protests outside the UAE embassy in Washington, calls for boycotts of Dubai tourism, editorials demanding reform of how Gulf states handle crimes against foreign nationals. But outrage is fleeting. Media cycles move on, new stories replace old ones, and eventually, most of the world forgot about Alana Brooks and the man who killed her. Most of the world, but not everyone. Marcus Thornton couldn't forget. He tried. God knows he tried. He threw himself into work, picked up every contracting job he could find, worked 16-hour days until exhaustion was the only thing he felt. But every quiet moment brought her back. Every time he passed the community hall where they were supposed to get married, every time he saw a young couple holding hands, every time someone asked him if he was dating anyone, it all circled back to Alana. The guilt was the worst part. Not guilt for what he'd done, but for what he hadn't done. He should have fought harder when she said she was leaving. Should have made her see that Khalid's promises were too good to be true. Should have somehow, some way, saved her from herself. The rational part of his mind knew that wasn't fair, that Alana had made her own choices, that he couldn't have stopped her even if he'd tried harder. But the grief-stricken part, the part that still loved her despite everything, couldn't accept that. In January 2025, Marcus established the Alana Brooks Foundation. It wasn't much. He wasn't wealthy, couldn't fund anything major. But he used the money he'd saved for their wedding, the money he'd never gotten back from deposits, the money that had been sitting in his account like a memorial to a future that never happened. The foundation's mission was simple: help women recognize red flags in relationships, provide resources for those who found themselves trapped abroad, advocate for stronger protections for American citizens in foreign countries. "I can't bring her back," Marcus said during a small press conference announcing the foundation, his voice steady but his eyes betraying the pain beneath. "I can't undo what happened, but maybe I can help someone else. Maybe I can make sure another family doesn't have to bury their daughter because she made one wrong choice about who to trust." He paused, looking directly into the camera. "Alana wasn't perfect. She hurt me. She hurt her family. She made a decision a lot of people judged her for. But she didn't deserve to die, and the man who killed her shouldn't get to just walk away like it never happened." Kira became the foundation's most vocal supporter. She gave interviews, spoke at college campuses about her sister's story. warned young women about the dangers of men who use wealth to manipulate and control. "My sister thought she was choosing security," Kira would say, her voice breaking but never stopping. "She thought money meant safety, and instead, it meant death." If one person hears this story and recognizes the warning signs in their own life, if one person walks away from a situation that feels wrong, even if it looks perfect, then maybe Alana's death will mean something. The story refused to die. Completely. Every few months, a new article would surface. An update on the ongoing advocacy efforts, a profile of Marcus and the Foundation, a retrospective on the case and why justice had failed. In November 2024, a true crime podcast called The Sheik's Secret dedicated 8 episodes to Alana's story, conducting interviews with everyone involved and laying out the evidence in exhaustive detail. The podcast went viral, topping charts, sparking renewed public interest and anger. But Khalid remained untouched, unreachable, protected by borders and bank accounts and the willingness of powerful systems to look the other way when one of their own committed murder. And that's where Alana's story ends. Not with justice, not with accountability, not with the fairy tale ending where good triumphs over evil and wrongs are righted, but with a young woman buried in Atlanta, a mother who will never stop grieving, a sister who turned tragedy into advocacy, and a man who loved her standing at her grave every Sunday, telling her about the Foundation, about the women they've helped, about how he's trying to make her death mean something, even though it never should have happened at all. Marcus stands there now, on a cold Sunday morning in late 2025. The headstone is simple. Alana Marie Brooks, beloved daughter, sister, friend. 1997-2023. Your light will not be forgotten. He places fresh flowers, white roses because they were her favorite, and sits in the grass beside her grave. "We helped another woman last week," he tells her, his voice quiet. Her boyfriend was trying to isolate her, control her money, convince her to move abroad with him. But she remembered your story. She reached out to the Foundation. And now she's safe. He wipes his eyes. "I know it doesn't fix anything. I know it doesn't bring you back. But it's something, Alana. It's something." The wind picks up, rustling the trees around the cemetery. Marcus stands, touches the headstone one more time, and walks back to his truck. He has work to do, women to help, stories to tell, a foundation to run, a promise to keep. Because Alana Brooks may not have gotten justice, but Marcus Thornton will make damn sure she isn't forgotten. He'll make sure every woman who hears her story understands that luxury can be a cage, that promises can be lies, that sometimes the most dangerous trap is the one that looks like a dream. And maybe, just maybe, that will save a life. Maybe that will stop another family from standing at a grave, asking how something that looked so perfect could have gone so terribly wrong. Final closing. Narrator. Alana Brooks died on October 16, 2023, at just 26 years old. She made a choice that many judged her for, leaving a good man for the promise of wealth and luxury. But that choice didn't make her a villain. It made her human, flawed, vulnerable, and ultimately, the victim of a predator who knew exactly how to exploit those vulnerabilities. Her killer, Khalid al-Rami, has never faced justice. He remains free, wealthy, protected, living proof that money can buy almost anything, including the ability to get away with murder. But her story lives on, in the foundation Marcus created, in the women Kira warns, in the journalists who refuse to let the case be forgotten, in every person who hears what happened and thinks twice before trusting someone who promises paradise. This is the reality that nobody wants to talk about. Sometimes evil wins. Sometimes the bad guy walks free. Sometimes justice is nothing more than a word we use to make ourselves feel better about a world that doesn't actually care about fairness. But telling the story, making sure people know what happened, why it happened, how it could happen again, that matters. Because knowledge is protection. Awareness is survival. And maybe the next woman who gets that Instagram message from a wealthy stranger will remember Alana's name and think, no, not me, not today. If you found this story important, share it. Make sure people know what happened to Alana Brooks. Make sure her death isn't just another statistic, another forgotten tragedy. Make sure that the next time someone you care about says they're leaving everything for a person they barely know who's promising them the world, you tell them about Alana, because she can't warn anyone anymore. But we can. What story do you want me to cover next? Drop your suggestions in the comments. Stories like Alana's need to be told, the ones that don't get justice, the ones the world tries to forget, the ones that could save lives if enough people hear them. If there's a case you think deserves this kind of deep investigation, let me know, because the truth matters. The victims matter. And their stories deserve to be heard, no matter how powerful the people who want them silenced. Rest in peace, Alana Brooks. Your story will not die with you. End of documentary. Fade to black.